Black Mesa is a game that I gave a glowing review of in 2020 when it came out with its Zen chapter. It is a great recreation of Half-Life 1 in the Source engine with many graphical modifications and gameplay enhancements that keep things fresh 20 plus years on from that original. It's like a remix before RTX Remix came out, improving the shading, model quality, and much more over that original game. So I was incredibly happy to see that there is an RTX Remix project for it, and specifically a demo of which covers the game's initial introduction chapter. Now, the original Black Mesa release, I would say, is still handsome with great art and attention to detail, but the Source engine is of course archaic at this point with its DX9 baggage. The game has high-res textures that are consistent with the art direction, but the lighting and material quality is getting on in years and lets those assets down at times, especially in comparison to modern releases that use physically based rendering, let alone forms of ray tracing. While the game does use real-time lighting and shadows occasionally, there's still a lot of that old Source look in there, so you'll find many objects and characters merely grounded to that environment with blob drop shadows. Such anachronisms make it easy to imagine how RTX Remix could help the situation here. Loading up the RTX Remix version without the context of side-by-side comparisons had me floored. The lighting and material work was just pristine and gorgeous. It looked incredible, and I was wondering, did they remake all the textures for this game? What's going on here? How does this look so seamless and right? Making the comparisons, though, I could see what is happening. Side by side, you can see that an incredible amount of work has gone into this RTX Remix project. Just in the monorail car alone, you can see what this remaster of a remaster means. In the original game, the normal maps are used occasionally, but most of the surface detail is driven by static diffuse lighting and static diffuse texture detail. So metals barely look like metals often, and they have a very grainy appearance. With RTX Remix, the authors took some of those diffuse textures, it would appear as a basis, and then stripped them of the baked features and gave them entirely new materials to make them look like the metals that they're supposed to be. And they all have a fine, up-res layer of detail. Grime and scratches and more are reproduced there, but instead of being driven by static textures, the material makes them shine through due to Remix's path trace lighting. So the scratches and grime make themselves visible as they disrupt the reflections of the lights in the environment on the surface. Just going across any scene in the intro in this game chapter here shows this work applied to nearly every object, where its material has been updated and the general art design has been maintained, but without that detail being baked statically into the texture. Rather, the detail is procedurally brought out by the material and the lighting conditions. Just look at the metal on the floor here. It's incredible what work has been done to update the textures and materials here. Then you have the new aspects of the visuals due to the lighting properties of Remix. Source was never good at reflections and specular lighting, so it's largely missing in the original Black Mesa release. Baked lighting tends to be bad at that, so many areas look overly diffuse and coarse, even though we know things like linoleum tiles, ceramics, and metals should be reflecting the environment. Here, the new RTX Remix materials show off reflectivity in a big way, taking those bathroom sinks to a whole new level where it starts to almost look like offline CGI. That is, until you see that the geometry is mostly the same as before. It's just the materials, textures, and lighting that are different. Or what about these tiled floors in the locker room adjacent to the bathroom? You only get slight reflections with a misaligned cube map before, whereas the RTX Remix version has reflections found on the surface with varying intensity. The big fluorescent tube lights make waxy streaks on the floor that are broken up by smudges and uneven areas. Once again, if you ignore the blocky nature of the original geometry, this almost looks like something coming out of offline rendering. While real bounce lighting, reflections, and materials are doing most of the heavy lifting here to transform Black Mesa into something that rivals modern AAA, there are some occasional enhanced geometry assets, like these wooden benches here. Yes, the textures and materials are on a whole other level, but you can see that the object has been rounded out in those places where it makes sense. The RTX Remix project at the moment is only in this game's opening chapter and definitely is still heavily work in progress, with me finding some visual bugs here and there and some crashes along the way, but the promise it shows even at this nascent state is incredible. And much like how playing Black Mesa in 2020 was like playing Half-Life as you remembered it in 1998, where its faithfulness and detail aligned with your rose-tinted imagination glasses of the past, this RTX remix of Black Mesa fulfills that same role in 2025. It's Half-Life, or Black Mesa as you remember it in your imagination, and it's filled with the details and craftsmanship that only devout fans could really realize. Truly, it's an incredible bit of work, and I hope we can see the full game fleshed out in this manner in the future.